You eat Uncrustables for breakfast?
Sometimes.
This is awesome.
If it's strawberry.
This is going to be a good one.
Are you already recording?
Yes, we've been recording.
Yeah, he always records early. Okay, ready?
No.
Hello and welcome. It's great to be with all of you for Worth the Journey, a Worthington Schools podcast. My name is Angie Adrian, and I get to serve Worthington Schools as the Assistant Superintendent of Academics.
And I'm Jeff Maddox.
You can be if you want to be.
Hello and welcome. It's great to be with all of you for Worth the Journey, a Worthington Schools podcast. My name is Angie Adrian, and I get to serve Worthington Schools as the Assistant Superintendent of Academics.
And I'm Jeff Maddox. I am the Director of Human Resources for the Worthington Schools.
And together, we are your hosts for this podcast and really appreciate you taking the time to hear the stories of those that we get to work alongside of in Worthington Schools. Everyone has a story to tell, but not everyone has someone to listen. So for our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in and listening to today's Worth the Journey podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Google, our school website, or wherever you get your podcasts. And before we introduce our guest this morning, I think we need to talk a little bit about the basketball Final Four.
Men's or women's?
So we're going to talk about men's right now because our guest is a basketball, football fan of a particular university.
She is.
Where I really thought they would make it to the Final Four.
They did not.
And that did not happen. And our guest today is Miss Brianna Abbott, who is a school counselor for Worthington Kilbourne High School. Welcome, Brianna.
Hi, thank you so much.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
So a Kentucky fan. Tell us about that.
I am a Kentucky fan. And so I went to college at the University of Kentucky. I worked with the different athletic teams as an athletic trainer while I was in college. So I'm a huge UK fan. Go Cats. And the press conference was super exciting. I was okay with the coaching change. Coach Pope is going to do great things.
And
Well,
now
I'm glad
Coach
you're a
Pope
believer.
played in 96, right?
He did.
Coach Pope was on the team in 96, yeah.
It's very exciting to see somebody come back that has a great passion for UK, and we'll see what happens.
Tell us a little bit about his press conference. So not a typical press conference.
No, I never would have watched a press conference for a new coach, to be honest. And then all of a sudden on my social media feed was like, Coach Pope crushed it, and I'm proud to be a Wildcat. And I'm like, what is going on? So I hopped online and found his press conference and watched all hour and 10 minutes of it and was like ready to, run around the house cheering the fight song. So it's a good day to be a Kentucky Wildcat fan.
That's pretty cool. How did you end up at the University of Kentucky? Why did you choose there?
I ended up at the University of Kentucky because I knew I wanted to do athletic training. And at the time, because I'm old now, there weren't a lot of opportunities for women in athletic training. And so UK was a school that would allow you as a female to work with the football team. And you see injuries in football that you don't see in a lot of other sports. And so I felt like that was going to be a really important part of my education, was making sure I got all the different types of injuries. And so I worked with football as a freshman and a senior. And my sophomore year, I was with women's tennis as my primary sport. And my junior year, I was with women's gymnastics. And so that's how I ended up at UK and became a big UK fan. My sister also attended University of Kentucky, and my niece is a junior, finishing her junior year at UK right now.
So why don't we continue that and jump in and just tell us about your family?
So I have one sister, and she and her family live in Kentucky. As I've just mentioned about my niece, and then I have a nephew who is graduating from high school this spring. He'll be attending Auburn University in the fall, and my littlest nephew is finishing 5th grade. I have 2 dogs, Lexi and Mia, both of which are certified therapy dogs. Lexi gets to come to Kilbourne every day and is definitely the most popular staff member at our building. And then my parents, my mom and my stepdad, are both retired educators. My mom was a school counselor once upon a time, and now she is a docent at the zoo. She had also been a science teacher prior to becoming a school counselor. And my stepdad retired as a math teacher and basketball coach. He actually won 3 Division I basketball high school championships when he was coaching, 1 at Westerville North and then 2 up at Canton McKinley. And now he does ACT tutoring and loves working in the yard. And I'm very lucky to have all of them.
So, Brianna, you and I had the opportunity to be colleagues and work together at Worthington Kilbourne High School. I got to serve as the principal and you as a school counselor. How many years total have you been at Worthington Kilbourne High School?
I'm finishing my 18th year at Kilbourne.
Okay. And what did you do prior to that?
So I did 1 year at Grove City as a school counselor. And then before that, I worked at an organization called Lifeline of Ohio. It's a nonprofit health organization that deals with organ donation. Because even though my education had been in athletic training, I also had a health education as my other piece. And when I got to my senior year of college during spring break, I was doing my student teaching, and I realized how much I loved being in the classroom and around younger kids. And I also realized that as an athletic trainer, your hours are really bad. And you're always watching someone else's team, someone else's kids, someone else's. And I thought, well, if I'm going to have my own family someday, I don't want to be in a situation where I can't ever watch my own kids play and compete. And so I made the decision that I wasn't going to continue with athletic training. And my mom said, I could have told you that a long time ago if you would have just listened to me, as all good mothers will do. It took me a little while to realize that I could be a school counselor and not be my mom. You know, like everyone's always said, oh, you're just like your mom, which is a great compliment. But at the same time, you still want to be you.
Absolutely.
And so eventually I did go and get my master's in school counseling. And I liked the fact that as an athletic trainer, you're helping people when they're injured, and you help them rehab, and you help them return to action, and you try to prevent injuries whenever you can. And it's actually not that different than what I'm doing every day as a school counselor. It's a different type of an injury. It's a different dynamic, but you're still working with somebody. You're trying to prevent bad things from happening. And then you're also trying to work with students as they are growing through the experiences that are happening in their life and as they're recovering. And it's actually not very different, even though they're very different.
Share with us some of the best things about the counseling team.
I have the best team. I am so lucky. The coworkers that have come before that have retired or left to go to a different building, the group of I work with, there's 5 of us. So there's 4 other people that are on my direct school counseling team that we get to work with. And everybody is very student-centered. We're all focused on what is going to be in the student's best interest. But even beyond, if you go beyond just our group of 5, we have mental health specialists, we have secretaries, we have administrators, we have teachers, and everyone working together, everybody being able to come together and always keeping in mind what's going to be in the best interest of kids is really, I'm very lucky to be in a situation where that's what we get to do every day.
This particular interview with Brianna Abbott is about healthy mindset. So we've done this series on healthy habits in Worthington schools, and this is healthy mindset. So Brianna, when you talk about your team, your counseling team and your mental health specialist team and the Graeter team, what are some of the most important aspects that you see in creating healthy mindsets for staff and for students?
So I think there's a lot of people that don't even know what a school counselor is and what we do. And so we have the unique role in a school system that we are trained to look at the whole child. We are looking at their academics, their college and career readiness, and their plans for the future, as well as their personal social lives and how they're handling those challenges that come their way. And so that healthy mindset is a big piece of that because it impacts all 3 domains of their academics. Because if I'm in a really bad place, it's hard to shake that off and focus on math. If my family was fighting all night long, it's hard to think for the future, to imagine when it's going to be, where I get to pick my own career and explore what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, because you're so stuck in the day. And then, of course, as you're dealing with those dynamics of, how you're interacting with your peers around you or in relationships, all of those things play a big role in your mindset. And so trying to find ways to find those positive influences, to be able to make choices that are right for you as a person, and to know that there's always help available is really important.
So why don't you attempt to take us through what a typical day of a high school counselor might look like, knowing full well that you're talking to people who truly understand there are no typical days in the life of a school counselor, but you're also looking at and talking to people who truly understand the value of a school counselor. When I was a middle school principal for years, I relied heavily on my school counselor, Kathy Starks. Shout out, Kathy. So I couldn't have done my job without Kathy. So why don't you take us through a typical day?
You're absolutely correct. There is no such thing as a typical day. And that's part of what I love about my job is that I can shift from 1 second I might be dealing with a student who's coming in because they're frustrated about somebody was mean mugging them as they were walking in the building. And then they go off to class. And then the next student's coming down because they're anxious about a test that's coming up. And then they leave and the next student is coming in because they're feeling really sad because their parent died. And then maybe I'm running a resiliency group. And so then you shift to that and you're helping students build those skills in a proactive way. And then I might leave that. And then you've got kids that are popping down working on their scholarship applications at this time of year. In the fall, they're working on their college applications. And you're doing things with regards to a career interest inventory for somebody. And then the next student comes in and they want to just have a safe place to be able to talk about what's been going on for them. And so you're constantly shifting. And every student that is in front of you is the most important student ever. You always have to think, no matter what it is, no matter what they're showing up with, they matter. And so they always have to feel like their stuff is the most important stuff because it is. To them, it is the most important thing. And so it's constantly making that transition and being able to be a presence that's truly there and attending to what kids are bringing to you in that moment and trying to be proactive when you can, but also being there and ready for all of the things that happen that you can't prepare for. And we run grief groups. We've run attendance groups. We do different things to try and figure out what students need and how we can best meet those needs. That can look different based upon what the needs are of that time. And so different things that you're going to do over, a school year may be different this year than next year, just depending on what students have.
That makes a lot of sense.
18 years in, students the same or are they different?
Both. They are still students. They are still these amazing humans who are, you say that change the world. And I know that sometimes people are like, what? But it's so true. These kids are incredible. And it's so cool to see or hear from students who maybe graduated in 2008 or 2010. One of my former students that graduated in 2010, I happened to get to go and see her literally working at her dream job. Or you learn about the different things that former students are doing, and it's like, these kids are changing the world. And I would actually argue that every day as they go about their days, even while they're in high school, middle school, elementary school, the kids are already changing our worlds. They're pushing us to get better every day. And so we are better humans because of our students. And so I think they're already changing the world. So I think, the class of 2008 is the class that taught me how to text way back when, which is like such a mind-blowing concept now that I didn't know how to do it. And at that point in time, it was like with T9 and you had to make it go through to figure out which word you wanted. And so those kids literally taught me how to do that. And now I can't, our world is so different today. So the kids' worlds are very different. So they're the same, but they're different.
Do you see a lot of struggles based on that technology that's coming through your offices?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's both a wonderful resource and it can be a burden. And it can make it difficult to have in-person socialization when you're so used to being on your phone. Students are in the process of testing for Ohio end of course tests right now. And I was administering testing yesterday. And as kids were finishing, you could see their antsiness of ready to get on their device. And once everyone was done testing in their room, there was silence. Nobody was talking to one another. They could have gotten up. They could have moved around. They could have been interacting, and everybody was on their phone. And I was like, wow, this is so different. Mm-hmm. But it's an extension of them now. It's a part of them, but it's a part of us too. Sitting here, we all have our devices nearby. And that's just a reality of what we're living in now.
As we think about how we create our own healthy mindset, it's personal to us because that might be going and playing around a golf. Some people, that doesn't create a healthy mindset for them. But if you were to give, yeah, exactly. If you were to give some words of advice to our audience today about ways they might create a healthy mindset for themselves, what are some things that you might share?
And it is totally different depending upon the student, the teacher, the parent, whomever it is that's coming in, because it is about finding what's going to work right for them. But a lot of it comes back to starting at the basics. What am I feeling in this moment? How can I even take a chance to pause and just, what am I feeling right now? Because sometimes when we are all over the place, it can be hard to even identify, oh man, I'm holding so much tension and stress right now. Giving that chance to pause and be present and to feel whatever it is that you're feeling requires great strength. It's easy to try and just busy your way through life, and to be able to pause and to think, what am I feeling right now? And how can I feel these feelings in a safe, healthy, appropriate way is important. And so when you go back to those basics, sometimes that means I got to get a good night's sleep. Because if you're not sleeping, your emotions are going to be all over the place. And that's hard because sometimes when we're really stressed, we aren't able to sleep. And we can be so busy with so many things that we don't even have time we feel like we don't have time to sleep. But that can be a piece that's really important to just pull back to ourselves. Finding those opportunities to truly make a connection with another person. And so like you talked about that, coming in my office with a question of the day, that gives you that opportunity to have a connection with another person where somebody else can be present with you. And that doesn't have to be a big conversation, but it's just making that connection and knowing that somebody else cares about you and cares about what you're thinking and what you're going through in that moment. Sometimes it means taking that big deep breath, doing some physical movement. And the physical movement could be standing up and stretching your arms over your head and then sitting back down and getting to work. But sometimes it might mean, like you were just saying, going and playing that round of golf, or taking a walk, or petting a dog. And so sometimes when we physically move our body, we are giving ourselves that chance to have an emotional change, that opportunity to make that outlet. And of course, having a positive mindset, trying to figure out, I may not be where I want to be right now, but I can still get there. So what do I need to do? Because I always think yet is a very powerful statement. Mm-hmm. I'm not there yet, but that doesn't mean I won't ever be there. And so remembering that what you're doing today matters for your tomorrows. And sometimes that mattering is just giving yourself those opportunities for growth, but it all can influence how we are dealing with every day that's in front of us.
I think about whether you're a school counselor or a principal or a teacher, like we all work in the education field. And so we spend the majority of our time helping others, right? That's our job because we care about others deeply. We're wired that way. Do you think sometimes that we feel guilty when we want to take time for ourselves, to do something for ourselves? We feel guilty that we're not doing for others because that's what we're supposed to be doing. So how do you sort of pause and reframe and say it's time to take care of me so that I'm healthy enough to take care of others, right? And like we talk about that a lot in the workplace, and I think we need to hear that from our colleagues to know that it's okay because you're not good for me if you're not good for yourself.
100%. Absolutely. And it's, you hear it in the airlines, they say, oh, put on your own oxygen mask before you take care of the people around you.
Right.
And it's that same concept all over again, because if you're not okay, then the people around you aren't going to be okay either. And even if it's not that you can't do the outside things that are helping them, we feed off of each other's emotions. And so if you're in a really rough place, the people that are around you are going to feel that. They might not cognitively initially know that that's what's happening, but we co-regulate off of each other. And so when somebody is calm, you take on some of their calmness. And when somebody is very not calm and not okay, you take that on too. And so that's why it's really important, obviously as teachers, that we're calm before kids, because kids are going to feed off of that. And teachers feed off of the kids too.
We all recognize the incredible value of school counselors. You're there to help and work with our students and their families. Informally, how much time do you spend with staff members?
I don't know. Every day is, again, that goes back to every day is different. And their needs are different depending on the day. I think our teachers are the most, and obviously I've had the opportunity to be in different buildings too. And I would say that Worthington employees as a whole are truly remarkable. When you see people on the hardest of days, you can see this strength and resilience and dedication to kids. But it also comes with, I have to take care of me. And sometimes that can be hard. And people, as Angie, as you were just saying, people do need that permission that you have to do the things that take care of you. And sometimes that taking care of you is taking a 3-minute, I'm just going to take a quick deep breath, which I hate deep breathing, but it works. And then that makes me mad, but that's a whole different story. But it's taking that deep breath, it's recentering yourself and then saying, okay, here we go. Let's go. Because on any given day, every staff member also brings their stuff from their personal lives, just like the kids do. And so a teacher can know that I may not be my best today, but they're doing the best that they can. And I tell kids all the time, if you feel like you're not doing good enough, which that, none of us ever feel like we're enough. That's a human thing. That's not just a high school thing. But when we're in that I'm not good enough mindset, we think that everybody else is better. Everybody else is more talented, smarter, friendlier, more approachable. And it can be exhausting as we're all dealing with our things and we all want to be there for everyone. It is important that we take those opportunities to realize that we are enough. Just by showing up, just by showing that we care, by being our real selves, that is making a difference.
That's right.
And we don't have to be that picture perfect image that might be on social media. But even if it's not on social media, sometimes it's around you. They made their captain of the team. They made this award and they are getting straight A's and I'm not. And that doesn't mean you don't have value and you don't have worth.
That's right.
And that doesn't mean that you aren't making a difference, because you are. We forget that the smallest things can make the biggest difference. The things that, somebody else didn't think twice about at the time is something that stays with somebody else for a long time. And so whether that's like when I look to you and I think I can remember sitting at Sutter Park dealing with a situation that was a really sad day, and you walked in with food and we needed food, and that made a difference. And it still sticks with me because I have emotion even thinking about it now. Or when I think about with you, Angie, when we would be partnering on some really tough situations with kids and you would just, hey, we got this. We can do this. We'll help them through this.
Yep.
It makes a difference, but it's by being real and by being true. And those things might not be moments that are things that you can even remember.
Sure.
But to the person who benefits from it,
Yep.
it
Matter
does
at a
stand
time.
out.
Yeah.
Brianna, you just, in my mind, you just sort of summed it up about when we talk about healthy mindsets, and that is for all of us to remember that the little things can make the biggest differences. And so when I think about if I do 2 or 3 little things that make big differences for individuals, and so does Jeff, and so does Corey, and so do you, and so does everybody that we get to work with, what a difference that can make for the culture and the mindset of the people that we get to work with in our school community, for our families. So for the 18 years that you've spent with us in Worthington, you continue to make differences every day, and you are definitely in the role that you should be in because you have a great impact on the culture.
Before we jump in, I just want to kind of echo what Ange said, and that is just a simple thank you. Thank you for answering the calling that your heart has, and you have done a phenomenal job for us. And the connections you make with students and staff and families is amazing, and genuinely appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I'm lucky to be here.
Yep. So on to the fun part. You've listened to our podcast. Please know that you can ask to pass, but the answer will always be no. we will sit uncomfortably waiting for a response.
You do know that as a school counselor, I'm really good with uncomfortable silence.
That's
right?
great. We'll sit here. I mean, I don't know how long that thing records, Corey, but we'll wait
6 days.
6 days. We'll wait 6 days. All right, here you go. Based on the recent news with the Kentucky men's basketball program, my question to you is the UK men's basketball program broken?
Oh, no. That's easy. That was great. You can ask questions like that all the time.
If raindrops were not a thing, what would you want to fall from the sky?
Snow.
Oh, snow.
Bring on snow days.
I was thinking like M&M peanuts or something. I was totally scooping those things up. Where is one place you've always dreamed of going?
Way back when I would have said Hawaii, but my family did a trip to Hawaii and that was amazing. I'd probably want to, I've been there as well, but I would probably want to go back to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City. It was amazing experience and it was a lot of fun.
Cool. Favorite pizza topping and where is your favorite pizza from?
Jets Pizza, probably mushroom.
Does your family have any big traditions?
When it's the last day of school, my mom will make goofs, which is chocolate chip cookie bars, but in our family they're called goofs because my grandmother goofed when she made the recipe at one point in time, and those are some of our best traditions and experiences together.
Which snacks are your most must-haves for a road trip?
Bring on the chocolate. M&Ms.
Any kind of chocolate?
Yeah. Chocolate is always going to be the winner.
What is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Graeter's black raspberry chip
Ooh, that is a good one.
is pretty much just solid standard.
What is, in fact, the greatest cereal of all time?
I'll take donuts instead, please.
I do like donuts, but that's not a cereal. So what is the greatest cereal of all time?
I did have to ask for help on this because this was a very hard question for
Sure.
me. So I ended up, my answer is Rice Krispies because I can make them into Rice Krispie treats.
Well, thanks for playing along. Not as hard as you thought they were going to be. And congratulations, you are officially off the hot seat.
Thanks so much for being with us today. Thanks to our listeners out there who are listening. We appreciate all that you do for Worthington Schools.
Brianna,
Thank you.
Good to talk with you again.
thank you for playing along and all your words. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to today's Worth the Journey podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google, our Worthington Schools website, or wherever you get your podcasts. A big thanks to Corey Carter and our communications team for making this podcast a reality. And of course, to our students at The Ohio State University in the communications department. The journey may not always be easy, but it'll definitely be worth it. Thanks for taking care of each other and have a great day out there.